We are live.
Good afternoon and welcome to this virtual meeting of the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee of the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation, which is being live streamed on YouTube. In addition to the participating board members and the leadership team, I am pleased to welcome our virtual audience and thank you for joining us. I would like to note that yesterday, October 1st, was National Seniors Day, a day in which we pay tribute to all seniors who have helped shape our country and who continue to enrich our lives. With that, I would like to turn it over for a message from our board chair, Fareed Amin. Fareed.
Thank you very much, Lawrence. And again, welcome to our online and virtual audience. So today is indeed a sad day at the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation. Some of you may be aware, Maureen Clohessy passed away earlier today. On behalf of my fellow directors on the board, the leadership team at TSHC, and indeed the entire staff, I would like to extend our sincere condolences to her family and friends. Maureen was a very accomplished person who touched us in many different ways. She was a fierce advocate, she was tenacious, and indeed she was feisty to the end. We are all better off today as a corporation and as individuals as a result of Maureen's work. She asked the tough questions, but she was always respectful. She was intentional. She was deliberative. She was patient and empathetic, and we will miss her dearly. We hope through the efforts and her contribution that we will continue her legacy through the work we do at the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation. So again, on behalf of the entire team at TSHC, we mourn her loss, we will miss her, and we would like once again to express our sincere condolences to our families and friends. When additional information is made available to us, we will post that information on our website. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Fareed. Maureen will be greatly missed. I would also like to note that this evening, October 2nd, marks the start of Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is the New Year in Judaism and is the first of the high holy days and will continue through to October 4th. 2nd October is also observed as International Day of Nonviolence as per a United Nations resolution since 2007 in commemoration of Mahatma Gandhi's birthday. I want to thank Grant, Vince and their team for the preparation of materials brought forward for today's meeting. Today in the public session, we'll be reviewing the 2025 budget update, current year January to August financial results, and proposed enterprise risk management policy. In the closed session, we'll be discussing the renewal of insurance policies and further details of the 2025 budget. Let us begin with the land and African ancestral acknowledgement. Though we may be meeting virtually in different locations, as a committee of a City of Toronto Corporation, we acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. The committee acknowledges all treaty peoples, including those who came here as settlers, as migrants, either in this generation or in generations past, and those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery. Now, moving to the agenda item 3, that's the approval of the public meeting agenda. Are there any amendments for the October today's meeting's agenda? Hearing none, may I have an AFRC member move that the October 2nd, 2024 AFRC public meeting agenda be approved as presented?
Mr. Chair, I so move.
Yeah, moved by Warren. Fareed, would you mind seconding it?
Yeah.
Yeah, seconded by Fareed. Thank you both. All in favor? With all in favor, the motion is approved. We will now proceed to item number 4, that's a conflict of interest. May I call for any declaration of conflict of interest? Hearing none, we will move on to item number 5, approval of the AFRC public session minutes of September 3rd, 2024. Are there any amendments? Hearing none, may I have an AFRC member move that the September 3rd, 2024 minutes be approved as presented, moved by Fareed. And Warren, would you like to? Yeah, seconded by Warren. Thank you both. With all in favor, be it resolved that the September 3rd, 2024 public session minutes as presented are approved. We'll now proceed to item number 6, that's the approval of AFRC closed session minutes of September 3rd, 2024. Are there any amendments? Hearing none, may I have a committee member move that this September 3rd, 2024 closed session minutes be approved as presented?
So moved.
So moved.
Yeah, moved by Warren and seconded by Fareed. Oh, yeah, seconded by Fareed. Thank you both. With all in favor, be it resolved that the September 3rd, 2024 closed session minutes as presented are approved. We will now proceed to item number 7, that's action items review. Does anyone have any comments, additions to the action item list? Hearing none, we will move to item number 8, that is CEO update. Over to you, Tom.
Great, through the chair and to the committee. Yeah, first of all, Fareed, thank you for those very genuine, lovely comments about Maureen. We have sent out messages to, as you saw, to the board, to the staff, and also to STAC, and just on behalf of all the staff, wanting to just share how much we truly will miss Maureen. And I know for myself, I just remember she was one of the first people who I saw on screen when I started here with Toronto Seniors, and just when she sat in that chair and, she had her papers in front of her and, kind of asking those questions. And it was, I have a question. And I just, often remember, I have a question for Brad. She was very, very kind of focused on those operations and, kind of what was so important to the tenants. And I know just how closely she worked with all members of our senior team and so many of the staff. And we'll miss her. And I just wanted to really have my opportunity to share that with everyone today. And then just on a more, I guess, serious and notice just around our budget, we have submitted that for September 10th for the city, our first draft, and you certainly will be hearing more about that today. I just want to kind of recognize once again the really the great efforts of staff in putting that putting that document together and submitting. Also, just a couple more items, so just relating to staff. One, and you may have seen on screen, wanting to welcome Emma Francis to our senior team, and Emma is going to be in the role of the executive business program coordinator, and so really that a combination of both kind of the executive assistant to the CEO, but also she will be looking at some of the kind of project and facilitation coordination work that she can help with all members of the senior team. So just looking to broaden out that role a bit for support across the organization. So Emma has some fantastic experience in her work at Wellspring, where she helped leading and coordinating their volunteer program, but also prior to that EA with Rogers. And so really a good combination, I think, for our team and for our organization. And then also, you may have heard if you're at QTE, and also wanting to thank Liz for the time that she has spent at Toronto Seniors. She came out of retirement to help us out 2 years ago, and we've appreciated the capacity that she has assisted us in. As I said yesterday at our staff event, she really is the essence of so much of Toronto Seniors housing and helping us through the first 2 years. So Liz, thank you so much. And those are my comments for today.
Thank you, Tom. Anyone have any questions for Tom? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 9. That's 2025 budget update. Over to you, Vince.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome everyone. Today, I'd like to give you an update in terms of the 2025 budget update. As mentioned by Tom, we submitted the budget on September 10th to the City of Toronto. We've also met with the Senior Tenant Advisory Committee, or STAC, on September 12th to discuss high-level view of the budget. We've also met with the city last week on the the preliminary submission on September 25th, just with the city planning department. And we're expecting some additional updates in the coming weeks, but we are entertaining and including our leadership team to make any adjustments further. And we will propose something further back to the city as they would like to see small minor changes and updates in the coming weeks. At this point as well, I'd like to also highlight some of the key dates that are coming up. And as some of you are aware, we are going to be doing the admin review, expected to be sometime in the month of October. We're still waiting for a date to be confirmed. TCHC has received their date, but we are waiting for our separate date for TSHC. And also we will be expecting to have a what we consider to be informal budget committee, which we'll expect to happen in mid-October to mid-November, followed by a decision sometime in late November. And ultimately, the board will need to approve the budget sometime in December. And then, of course, council will vote on the budget in mid-February. That is a high level in terms of the summary of the budget update for now. I'll turn it back to the chair.
Thank you, Vince. I think, Fareed has a question. Fareed.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I know that the city has actually launched its public consultation on the budget starting today. And I know we had quite a bit of conversation the last time around about whether or not there is any opportunity for us to do any kind of public consultation. So I guess my question would be, obviously the city's process will somehow hopefully incorporate any comments that individuals might have on the TSHC budget, and some feedback might be provided through that forum as well. But I was going to ask maybe, I don't know, Tom or Vince or anyone else from the senior leadership team, whether or not there will be any sort of opportunity for citizens to provide feedback directly on our budget as we, between now and then when we're ready to submit the final allocation to the City of Toronto. Is there an opportunity for them to provide input on our website? I mean, what's the opportunity, if any, for public engagement on this?
Vince?
Grant.
Sorry, is it Grant or you want to go to Vince?
I think Vince can respond to this, and to your point, Breather, we did do some consultation sessions, but go ahead, Vince, you can provide some context there.
Yes, thank you. And through the chair, we did have a consultation with the tenant public in early August 7th and 8th, where we have 2 one-hour sessions with the public. And we discussed in terms of high level, in terms of the budget focus. And so they did provide us with the feedback in early part of August, and that was incorporated into our budget of the 2025 budget. So that was included in terms of a preliminary conversations with our tenants early part of August.
Just
Thank you, Vince. Farid, go ahead.
yeah, just a quick follow-up. Can we put a link to the city's consultation
Some
process on our
audio
website?
issues here. Just let me see.
Sorry, can you repeat
Did you
that,
hear?
Farid?
I was just asking whether or not we can put a hot link from our website to the city's website to the public consultation on the budget. So there's a link that we could put on our website. So if someone comes on our website and they want to make input into the city's budgetary process, they can just press on that link and be redirected to the city's website.
And I have some audio issues. Just a minute. Yeah. Grant, please go ahead.
Just going to respond, and I see Arlene put her hand up as well. So
Okay.
through the chair, I think we can take this back and look at what we might be able to put on the website to help our tenants feel they can, have easy access to the city's budget process. So we'll take that back, and Arlene, we can maybe have a chat about that for how we would do that. I know the city does make this stuff readily available on their website too. So
Okay,
Thank you.
that's fair enough. Thanks.
Thank you, Grant. Any other questions for Vince on the budget? Having heard none, we'll now move to item number 10, that is enterprise risk management policy. Over to you, Grant.
Lawrence, and through the chair, and good afternoon again, everybody. Before you today is an item that we have spoken about in previous AFRC meetings, and this is related to the Enterprise Risk Management Project. At a previous AFRC provided some summary background on this initiative. We've got MNP, and I'll introduce the two folks that are here from MNP in a second, who are here to support this item today that's being considered for committee. As part of the project, one of the deliverables is the creation of an enterprise risk management policy. This is part of a larger initiative that includes an enterprise risk management framework being developed, and that would then further develop into some tools, templates, and other artifacts for us to use in this work. The policy that's before you has been developed and reviewed both internally with the extended leadership team, and as well we had a briefing with Lawrence a few weeks ago to incorporate some feedback as AFRC chair. I'm going to turn it over now to MNP, and from MNP we have two representatives, Bill Racco, who's a partner in the Enterprise Risk Service team with MNP, and Sarah Dion, who's the senior manager in the Enterprise Risk Services team at MNP. We've been working closely with them. Also on our, from the TSHC team, we have Tashani Pubanendran here, who's one of our business consultants supporting us on this work too. But I'll turn it over to Bill and Sarah to walk us through a quick overview of the policy. And then also in the package was attached a short presentation that gives a little bit more detail on the sort of next steps or bigger picture of this project.
Thank you very much, Grant, and thank you very much for having us today. So the policy has been included in your committee package, and just kind of to give an overview to everybody, the policy is part of an overarching enterprise risk management program, and it really outlines TSHC's approach to enterprise risk management. And then, as well as Grant was mentioning, there is a framework that will be developed as part of this project. And that is really the more focused details of how TSHC will apply and use ERM throughout the business. So overall, enterprise risk management, undertaking it as an initiative is to promote risk-informed decision-making and support effective execution of TSHC's strategic directions and business plans by just implementing an enterprise-wide approach to considering risks in everything that you do. So the policy, it follows it follows that statement. It kind of is driven from that statement. The scope, it does kind of apply to everything across the corporation. That's kind of the enterprise part of enterprise risk management. We've included some common definitions. I'll just note all the definitions are from the ISO 31000 framework, which is a best practice framework that we've modeled the policy on. We've got roles and responsibilities at all levels within TSHC, including the board of directors. The board has responsibility for providing oversight over the corporation's risks. So important that you folks have good assurance that there's an ERM program in place and that risk management process is being done. We also have responsibilities for your senior team, your leadership team, your director, strategy and business management, Grant, who's going to sort of oversee the program at the management level, risk owners, and we'll kind of determine who those are, subject matter experts that may be able to provide input to the risks, and then, of course, employees, because one of the sort of foundational principles of risk management is that everybody has a role in managing risk. We have given, in general, in the policy, a high-level overview of the risk management process. So this will be detailed further in the framework. And then I would just note, as part of this project, we are kind of going through, M&P is going through this process with TSHC right now to develop a risk register. So we're going through the risk identification and analysis pieces. I'd say we're probably about 80-85% done that. And then the last important piece of the policy is the reporting. So, as part of having an ERM framework, you want to be reporting to the board and specifically to this committee regularly on the enterprise wide risks and sort of, what mitigations are in place, what are planned, how high of a risk do we feel this is, prioritized risk, things like that. So that's kind of a high-level overview of the policy. And then in your audit package after that, there is, as Grant mentioned, a few slides with the overall process. And as I mentioned, we're doing work kind of concurrently. We're almost complete. We've almost completed, phase 2, and we're sort of concurrently working on phase 3, which is the risk assessment in the ERM risk register, and have had really good participation and input from TSHC so far. So that's sort of a high-level overview of the policy and the work that we're doing overall, and happy to take any questions that the committee has.
Yeah, Grant?
I want to thank Sarah for that quick overview of the draft policy before you today. I just wanted to also note that as part of the process to develop, not specifically in great depth the policy, but the overall framework, and this was brought up in an earlier conversation, there is engagement also happening with Toronto Community Housing, TCHC, which is part of the process, and we have them on board for risk identification pieces of that. So I know this was something flagged in an earlier chat, and so that just wanted to flag that is also a consideration that will inform this work.
Yes, thank you.
Any questions for Grant or MNP? Warren?
No, I'm quite happy actually, the progress that we're making. I went through the materials and congratulate everyone on where we are now, and look forward to a more fulsome program going forward.
Thank you. Fareed?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Chair. My only question has to do with next steps and the implementation of this. And I want to echo some of the sentiments expressed by Grant and thanking the MNP team. I had a great conversation with the team as well, and I think they've done a great job in coming up with this policy. But maybe this is a question more for Tom and the leadership team. And I mean, I can see this being part of the performance management plan that we would develop with our staff. This is part of the way that we're expected to evaluate risk and conduct business. I'm assuming that this would also be part of that performance metrics, Tom?
Yes, it is free. Yeah, it is in my PMP, and that which gets rolled out to the directors and subsequently to applicable staff. So it is there, and And absolutely, I think it becomes part of those kind of indicators of the of meeting those kind of operations and commitments to the organization.
Thanks. And my second question, sorry, Mr. Chair, is whether or not there is any training or anything that would have to do with the board in terms of the board's participation, understanding, or engagement in this piece.
So through the chair, I think I think we have to work through some more details, but that's a very good point, Fareed, in terms of what level of development or training is required for the board of this. So as the framework is developed, there may be training in different aspects to support this. The other thing that, when we've had some of these conversations with MNP is to ensure that as we develop and implement this framework, ultimately it's manageable within the capacity of TSHC as well. So we will definitely consider and look for feedback on training as we move forward.
Thank you. I have a question. As this draft policy was shared with me earlier, and my feedback was sought, and I had suggested, some additional roles and responsibilities for the board. I had suggested some 3 specific ones. I don't see them in this. Any reason why they're not included?
I did include 2 of them. I didn't put them in the exact format, but I did include them. But that's all feedback that will be put in the framework. The framework will have more detail around the roles and responsibilities. We did kind of keep it at a higher level in the policy. But that feedback was all good best practice responsibilities. So we'll make sure it gets into the framework.
Yeah, the reason I have studied several policies of other organizations. Some of them well governed have these, those 3 points which I had suggested in their policy as well, in itself, it's clear. For the sake of members, I will read them out. The first one is, the board shall seek regular assurance from the CEO and the leadership team, audit services, and our external auditors that would enable the board to ensure the internal control system is operating effectively. As you know, annual audit report references to this internal audit and the governance responsibility of the board. The second one is, on an annual basis, the board will review and approve enterprise risk register, heat map, and risk appetite, receive detailed presentation on each enterprise risk as required or requested. And the third one, on at least a quarterly basis, the board will review emerging risks and the management response. Now, if you can incorporate there either in this policy or research in your further framework, that would be helpful. That will remind the board what is oversight. It basically clarifies the board's oversight role.
Yeah,
okay.
Fair enough, for sure. Yes.
Okay, so we'll be including in the policy, or it will go into the grant?
Lawrence, we can take a look at these in light of the policy as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a little bit of opportunity before it goes to board in a few weeks. And one other thing I'll flag, and it may not stand out in the policy very brightly right now, but one of the appendices to the policy is the actual framework. So ultimately, once the framework is brought forward, it becomes adopted under the policy, and it essentially becomes part of the policy. So we did note the ERM framework as an appendix to the policy, although at this stage it doesn't exist. So this is where we were thinking we would tie them together under the overall policy itself, so that nothing was sort of lost in that.
Okay.
I hope that helps. Maybe that didn't come across because it isn't there yet, but it will be brought in.
Yeah.
Right? So there's more opportunity to also add that specifically tied to the policy.
Yeah, what happens is people think, okay, it has been delegated to the AFRC, but still the board as a whole has a responsibility. And otherwise, maybe the only AFRC committee members will be reading their terms of reference. So somewhere we highlight, and so the board members are aware of their responsibility and what has to be done. That would be helpful. Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions on ARM? Okay, having heard none, what about I mean, as it is, this policy will be forwarded to the board, or will there be amendments?
So the intent is to bring a policy forward to the upcoming board meeting. If there are amendments that you'd like considered at the committee here today, we can certainly consider those now in light of moving forward to board. And I think based on what you just said, Lawrence, we have, we can loop back with you on some of those. And then we can look at an updated policy to bring forward to board with those amendments.
Okay, so what do other members, Fareed and Warren, think of that? Should we incorporate those 3 points that I suggested? Fareed?
Well, I think what you have said is a different way of what I was trying to say, which is that the board has a fiduciary responsibility to understand its role relative to the enterprise-wide policy. So if there is some kind of a training along those 3 lines that you spoke about, so the board knows what question to ask, know what to look for on an annual basis, I don't have any real concern with any of that. So maybe what we do then is maybe we incorporate a provision before it goes to the board to say that staff will review and implement as appropriate training for board members as the policy is rolled out or being implemented in keeping with these 3 principles. And you can articulate those 3 principles that you mentioned, Lawrence.
Yeah, thank you. Warren?
Yeah, I'm fine with that approach. I guess if we proceed in that manner, the resolution should refer to the training.
Okay, can we have an amended resolution?
Well, I think what I'd like to put in, Mr. Chair, is that staff would consider implementing training as appropriate for members of the board to better understand the enterprise risk management policy. And I'm just, someone can put this into proper resolution language. In keeping with these 3 considerations, and then you can list those 3 considerations that you talk about. The staff will consider, if appropriate, training for members of the board to implement the enterprise-wide risk management policy in keeping with these 3 principles.
Okay, Grant?
Yeah, I'm just writing it down as you said it there.
Yeah, fine.
So what we're going to do
remember
is,
all that?
what I'm going to suggest is if Karen could bring out the resolution that I drafted in advance for this item, and we'll,
or at least have the minutes reflect.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we need it in a resolution.
I would like to.
We don't need a resolution as long as the minutes reflect that staff will deal with the training issue.
If the committee is sufficient with, why don't we bring up the resolution that's drafted, make sure you're comfortable with that. And then we can definitely, so for example, we can include in the subsequent staff report reference to this as well, be more specific about it, and, make the commitment as it comes forward to board in that way, I think as well. And then make sure as we do the framework, we'll make sure it's included in that level as well, Lawrence. And committee.
Yeah, okay, so can we have the resolution on the screen if it is possible, or should I read out?
I just started the resolution. It's not completed out because the 3 items were a little long, but I just have to incorporate training.
Yeah, I think maybe
we're going to just bring the resolution forward as it was originally planned.
Original one, yeah. Or I can read out, okay, fine. Motion that the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee endorse the following recommendation to be forwarded to board for approval: to adopt the enterprise risk management policy as set out in the attachment 1 of this report and forward it to the TSHC Board of Directors with an effective date of November 1st, 2024. So Grant, we will go ahead with this motion itself, right?
If the committee is comfortable with this, if you can proceed with this motion, and then in the minutes, we'll capture this.
Okay.
And when we bring it to board, we will include the points you've discussed here in the staff report that comes forward with the ultimate ask at board.
I'm okay with that. If Farid and Warren are okay, we'll go ahead with approving this motion. I need a AFRC member move this motion. Moved
So
by
moved,
Farid
yeah.
and seconded by Warren.
Yeah.
With all in favor, be it resolved that AFRC recommends that TSSC board adopt the ERM policy as presented with possible amendments. Yeah. Moved by Farid and seconded by Warren. Okay, now we'll go to item number 11. That's the current year YTD, year-to-date financial results. Over to you, Vince.
Great, and thank you, and through the chair for the result for the first 8 months to August 31st of 2024. TSHC has incurred operating expenses of $30,487,419 on total revenue of $31,965,642 for an excess revenue over expenses of $1,473,933, including amortization expenses. Major factors affecting the figures above. One is the Q2 surplus from TSHC to SHC, which came in about approximately $5.548299 million. The other, of course, is on the high salary and benefits costs for the first 8 months of this year. The costs included lower vacancy rate versus budget, post-retirement adjustments, extended health benefits reserve, along with payout for vacation from prior year, and also of hiring of additional frontline support staff and extension of existing and corporate positions, along with salary band adjustment contingency as well. So those are the items relating to the financial for the first 8 months of this year. Attached as well, you will also find the financial statement of financial position, which outlines the balance sheet, where we are in terms of the balance sheet account, in terms of the operating bank account, along with the rest of the assets and liabilities within TSHC. I will take any questions at this point.
Any questions for Vince? Having heard none.
Brenda has her hand up.
Okay, I
Chair,
can't
sorry.
unfortunately see her. Okay, Brenda, please go ahead.
Just a quick one on this, on the positions. There were a delay in hiring people, but were there any additional costs for any of the staff that we're bringing on board? Like you've introduced Emma, for example, is that just a regular salary slot? What about any of the, all the other positions have been incorporated into the regular budget allocations? So for example, the extra staff for pest management and those sorts of people. Those were all included already?
Yes, that's correct. Yes, and
Okay.
mainly on the section of the more of additional staff. These are what we consider to be front-facing, where we actually hired some additional community partnerships and programming, along with
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
along with some people in culture position and also a finance sort of staff to support the ongoing. So these are existing extra positions that we had to hire. And also some of them are already included in the 2024 budget. However, we had to make further extension for some of the existing contracts as well. Yes.
All right. So,
yeah.
So some of those positions are already incorporated into their budget. So it's not an additional cost per se in terms of Q2 or Q3. Okay.
That's correct.
All right. Thank you.
Tom?
Through the chair, that's fine. It was him.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Chair, I've got one quick question.
Yeah, Councillor, go ahead.
Yeah, so thank you, Vince, for that information. I just wondering what the point here of due from TCHC long term $4.2 million, almost.
Correct.
What is that about, and what does that mean long term? This is over what period of time are we expecting this payout?
Thank you, and through the chair, that's a great question. That's essentially the receivable we were expecting to receive from TCHC when we transferred the existing staff over to TSHC in June of 2022. These are all of the post-retirement, all the benefits and obligation, so that was transferred over. Just due to cash related, but also the agreement between TCC and the city. Currently, they do also have some of the older, I think it was called THC, which is the Toronto Housing Corporation at the time. So long and short of it, the expected in terms of payment, we don't have a visibility in terms of that. We have discussed this with TCC numerous times. It's all contingent on when they will receive the money directly from the City of Toronto to satisfy that. Our expectation is that we are putting forward anytime that these retirement costs comes through, we can bill CHC directly. So we are working through and completing for the first year and a half now in terms of that reconciliation, and we expect to have that amount lower. But moving forward, definitely we would like to have access to that cash. However, that conversation is continuing with the City of Toronto, and we will connect with TCHC and also advise when that repayment plan will come through. But I don't anticipate that it will be coming any time in the next 2-3 years. Is the expectation.
Yeah, no, thank you, Vince. I'm just responding because we're waiting for TCHC. TCHC is waiting for the City of Toronto. Who's City of Toronto waiting for? Anybody else or?
Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, so through the chair. And I think just from how I simply understand this liability as it relates to the long-term staff and the retirement has Toronto Community Housing has been carrying on this on their books. As they have been carrying this on their books, and then as the staff and they have to draw on the funds, the city covers off that cost. So from our perspective, I mean, it's a liability that was transferred, that TCHC that has transferred to us, but the city was covering it off on an annual basis, but not long term.
Okay, now how is this tied into this other point where it says the Q2 surplus? From TCHC to TSHC reconciliation, the positive net effect of $5.5 million. Does that number tie into this number in some way?
No, the 5.5 million through the chair is directly for the first 8 months of the operation, and it's more related to the budget, the current operating budget at this point. So it doesn't necessarily tie directly into that. That's more of the operating component of it.
Okay, that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tom and Vince. If we don't have any further questions, it's time for us to move into a closed session to discuss insurance policy renewal as well as some further details on the 2025 budget. May I ask if our committee member to move that we transfer into closed session?
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, moved by Warren, Councillor. I think we need committee members only. So sorry for that. Yeah, Farid, will you second that?
Sure.
Yeah, seconded by Farid. So with all in favor, be it resolved that the committee close part of the meetings to the public is approved. Yeah, so we'll